Football Manager has so many different features and aspects to it that it's hard to know everything about the game, but in today's video, I'm going to try and help you with that by giving you 5 quick tips that you can implement into your saves to hopefully make it easier, make it better to play Football Manager. Even experienced players, I think, will find this useful. Maybe not all 5 tips, but at least some of them. But before we get into the 5 tips, if you do enjoy the video, smash the like button for us. It really helps the channel. YouTube sees you've liked the video and thinks, wow, this is great, let's push it out to more people, which helps us, but also helps more people see these tips. On top of that, if you haven't subscribed, make sure you hit that button. We are doing daily, if not double daily, Football Manager content at the minute, so make sure you don't miss out. And finally, comment down below your best FM tip. That way we'll have a big list of them in the description down below. With that being said, let's get into tip number 1. Now this is the simplest tip of the lot. It's the one that's easiest to implement and is probably going to have the least effect on your game, but I just wanted to mention it for you guys that didn't know it was possible. If you have a look at any of your views on screen, you might not realize, and a lot of people don't, that these are customizable. In particular, the squad screen is one that I like to customize. Obviously, you have all your information here, the position they're currently playing, their best position, their name, their nation, their agreed playing time. All of that information can be found here, and you can click on any of these to filter based on priority lists. So all the star players go one way, important players, regular starters, all next to each other. The same way if you filter on ability, your best ability will come to the top, and it's very handy when you're using the expiry date function. If you click that, your players whose contracts are expiring the soonest will go to the top, allowing you to see which players you need to either extend the deal of or maybe possibly sell them. Now you might have a different look to me, you might be missing some of these, and if you want to add them, it's very simple too, but there's actually plenty of other things that you can add. So I just want to show you quickly. If you hit this general info button, and then there's plenty of different presets to see your squad laid out, but if you go to custom and then customize current view, all these fields on the right are what we can currently see, and all the fields on the left are what we can choose from. You can go everything from statistical data like clearances, chances created per 90 minutes. Maybe if you're playing a money ball save, this is the kind of information you'd like to look at, but you can do literally anything here and have it pop up in this section. Let's say we really wanted to see players' height, all right? No one really is going to want to do that, but let's say we wanted that in our view. You select it, click add, it then moves over to the right side, and you can put it wherever you want. Let's say we put it between age and nationality, hit OK, and now we can see all the players' heights on this screen, and you can filter by it to see who's the tallest. And Lucas Bergstrom, I mean, what a giant he is. That man is 6'8", but yes, you can see lots of information here. This is great to do. For me on my laptop, I don't have the expiry date one on there, and I really like having it, so I customize the view. I think depending on your screen size, depends on how much the game automatically puts in here. I could be wrong in that, but either way, if you want to customize the view, add some extra fields, you can do that through here. Again, just check it out, see if there's anything you want, do it at the start of your save, and it's going to help you. There's lots of information, and some of it might be really beneficial to your game. This next tip is my favorite from the whole list because it is kind of unique to 24, FM24 that is. Not necessarily, but you'll see what I mean in a second. Basically, we're coming to the data hub, which is a scary place to be. I know, I don't use it often either, so don't panic. We're not going to do anything complicated. We're not going to get into loads of different graphs and whatnot, but there's some really useful details in the data hub that can give you an edge before your next game, and there's one in particular I want to focus on. Now, just quickly, if you go to matches, last 5 matches, even if you're not a statistical nerd, you can get information from your assistants, from your coaches about what's been going wrong with your team, and you can just click a button to change some instructions that they think might help you. You don't have to agree with them, but if you think, oh yeah, Reece James has lost possession a lot, let's ask him to pass it shorter, you can do that and apply the change straight away. But that's not what we're here to see. What we're here to see is involved on the next opponent screen. Hit that and go to overview. We're playing Arsenal next, and you don't need to do this for every game, but if you've got a big game like this one that you really want to win, this is something that's very handy. Now, it tells you Arsenal's style of play. That's always been there in FM since the data hub has been introduced, but this set pieces part is very, very useful now with the new set piece match engine. For example, it tells us when attacking, Arsenal prefer in-swinging corners, and it says they go to the far post as well. So if you wanted, you could customize your defensive corner setup. You can have someone mark the far post, whatever you want to try, that is something you could do. But that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about are these other 2 sections that tell you how Arsenal defend corners. It says here that Arsenal cover the near post, and they'd like to leave players forward for a counter-attack. From this, we can learn, okay, maybe we don't want to go to the near post with our corners because they've got someone marking it, and maybe maybe we want to keep some players back. Now, from this information, we're going to make a slight change that might increase our chances of winning by 2%, 10%, whatever it might be. But if it gives us that chance of an extra goal, it gives us a chance of 3 points, and maybe that's a difference between winning a trophy and not. So again, we recognise here, Arsenal like covering the near post. So we're going to try and action this now by going to our tactics, set pieces, and then across to our attacking routines. Now, our routine 1 is aimed at the near post. I haven't done anything with this here. This is just generic from when they asked me the initial questions. I clicked anything and we had this near post routine. What I'm going to do now is add a second routine, which I suggest you all do anyway, irrespective of how Arsenal play. We're going to have a routine that's maybe a far post in-swinger instead. Now, what you then get shown is this screen here where you can choose how often you do each routine. Now, maybe near post is one we mainly want to do and far post less often. That's going to do maybe 1 in 5 corners to the far post and the rest to near post. But now we recognise Arsenal are going to defend that near post. So as we go into the Arsenal game, all you want to do is hit this drop down and then go to this frequencies button here. We can then go ahead and say, okay, we know Arsenal defend near post, so let's switch this. So we go to the far post more often in this game and the near post less often. After the game, you can change this back however you like, but it's now going to aim most of our crosses to the far post. That might give us 1 extra header in the match. That might be all that change does, but that header could go in. That could get us the win, and that could completely change your season. It's a small change, but with how easy it is now to set up your corner routines, it's really good to try and action the information you can get from the data hub. This next one is slightly controversial, might go against some of your guys' morals, but is very handy if you want to save some money on a transfer. Let's say here we want to sign Yeremy Pino of Villarreal with Chelsea. Now, by the way, this is from a Chelsea rebuild which I did on my channel. You can find that linked in the description. If you enjoy FM content, if you enjoy more entertainment style as opposed to informative, then come check it out. I'd really appreciate it. A lot of you have came over and said you've loved it, and yes, we did a Chelsea rebuild. We also do YouTube shorts about wonderkids you might not have heard of, and plenty more rebuilds to come. Ajax is going to be our next one. Spoiler alert there for you. But yes, Yeremy Pino, we go onto him here, ask the agent about the availability, and we can see it's going to cost us about 63 to 94 million to sign him. Let's bear that in mind. Okay, 63 to 94 million. Villarreal might want us to pay 70, 78, whatever it might be. We're going to try and get him for less than 63. And the way we're going to do this is to make Yeremy Pino want to leave Villarreal and unsettle him at his current club. To do so, I'm going to go to transfer, declare interest, and then as top target. Now, when you do this, there's a chance this might not work. Maybe Pino doesn't really want to join Chelsea and it's pointless. But with some players, I don't know if it's going to work for Pino. Every time though, you will get this news article and it will tell you how much they want to join your club. Like I say, for some players, they might not want to join you, but Pino has indicated that he'd be extremely keen on the move, and he's believed to be encouraging his team that he wants to leave and join Chelsea. So this is really handy information from us, and we're going to be playing the long game here. We're not going to unsettle Pino within a day. It's very unlikely. You can see we're in about February time here. We might be trying to unsettle Pino for the summer window in June. That's how long you might have to start this process, but it really can save you money. So worst thing that can happen is Pino doesn't want to join. Nothing's really happened there. We can then remove him as our top target if we want to, but we can see Pino does want to join us. So what I'm now going to do is go to Yeremy Pino and go and make a transfer offer for him. If we did say 50 million, let's say, which is below the transfer valuation they want, they're going to reject it. They're going to ask for a different amount. That's fine. We know that's going to happen. But what we're now going to do is go ahead and actually submit an offer that isn't going to work. So we know they won't accept 50 million. I'm going to make it anyway. What's going to happen now is in a few days, Villarreal will come back, reject the offer. We're just going to leave it then. We're going to cancel everything, leave it as it is. And within a week or two, there's a good chance if Pino really wants this move, he'll start getting upset at Villarreal. You'll get a few more news articles about it. He'll then want to leave the club. And then suddenly you might be able to get him in the summer as a transfer listed player, or he's just unhappy and Villarreal are willing to sell him for a little bit less. Like I say, worst case, they're not interested, and even if it doesn't work as successfully as getting them transfer listed, at the very least, it will stop them, say, extending their contract with Villarreal for a little bit because he's not too happy there right now. That's going to mean by the time we get to the summer window, he's got less time in his deal, which might make him cheaper in that way. But yes, what we're really looking for is Pino to get so upset that he demands to leave, and then we can save some money on this transfer. This next one, I want you all to do at the start of your next save, particularly if you're a team that actually has scouts. If you're non-league or whatever, look, I get it, you're not going to be able to do this at as good of a level. I've given my scout priorities over to my scout. He's sorting all the scouting out, and I don't really have to do too much. And even if you are doing that, there is still something that I suggest you all do that I'm going to show you how to do now. So firstly, have a quick look at what they're doing, because he's scouting Finland for some reason. And no offence, but he's never going to find a player good enough for Chelsea in Finland in the amount of years that he goes and searches there. Or at least he might find one or two, but you know, it's not worth a whole scouting focus. Instead, what I want you guys to do is, if you have Finland, get rid of it. But yes, we're going to go and create a new focus, which we're going to have running for the whole of your save. That's how useful this is. Select any position from your tactic, then go ahead and call this a wonderkid or whatever you want to call it. Apparently I've absolutely butchered the spelling of that for some reason on my keyboard, but we're going to leave it as it is, right? And then we're going to go down to transfer instead of transfer and loan. So this is going to search for any players that we could potentially buy as a transfer that play in our tactic. But we're not just doing that. We are, as you can guess by the very poorly written recruitment focus name, looking for wonderkids. And all I'm going to do is set this to 1.5 or 2 stars, choose it to your preference, and then we're going to go ahead and select potential ability to minimum 4 star. I'm going to put the maximum age of this up to 21 and then set it to ongoing. Areas, you can do it specifically if you want. Search Europe, search South America, you can do as many of these as you like, but sometimes I just set up the one recruitment focus and say scout anywhere. And now this recruitment focus is existing and they're slowly going to return different results. Now, they've already scouted some players that fit our criteria. We've got a great set of young players here that we could potentially look at signing. But once you set this up at the start of your save, leave it running. Over the years, you'll get different recommendations appear on the list. They'll keep an eye out for these wonder kids in the different nations they're in. And it's a very handy thing just to have going throughout the course of your save. Even if you don't want to get too involved in the scouting, this will allow you to find some real gems in your save with minimal effort. And finally, for my last tip, I'm going to be talking about player traits. Now, so many of us will take a player, let's say Nicholas Jackson here. You might already be smart enough to having him train in his current role. You might even have put an additional focus on him that you want to improve. Great, but are you putting a trait on him? Because traits in Football Manager are always so overpowered. Now, FM24 hasn't been out long enough to really know exactly which ones are the be-all and end-all of traits. But over the years, we have kind of noticed certain traits are really going to help players in the in-game engine. Now, particularly with strikers or midfielders, these traits can really take a player to another level. To do it, we're going to go to discuss new trait. Now, here you can actually remove traits, you can add traits, and it's very handy. You can even just get advice about what traits we should be putting on Nicholas Jackson. But particularly the finishing style ones are really going to help us here. So always add traits to your players if you can. So I'm going to go to Craig Shakespeare and ask him about some finishing training. We're then going to tell him, look, I want to do XYZ with Nicholas Jackson. Now, some of them make no sense. We don't want him to attempt long-range free kicks because he's not a free kick taker. But if you learn your player and you learn his skill set, you can really find a finishing style that's going to get him an extra 5 or 10 goals a season. It can be that effective. And the ones I really like to look at are these ones here. Trying to round the keeper when one-on-one is really good if you've got a striker with great dribbling ability, but maybe isn't the best finisher, because then he's going to dribble around the goalkeeper and give him an open goal. Now, if we suggest this for Nicholas Jackson, he is actually quite a good dribbler, and Craig Shakespeare might tell us it's a good idea, but instead he's saying, oh, he doesn't actually have much composure, which I didn't notice about Jackson, and this is why these coaches are useful. They tell you, no, this trait isn't good. You can then say, shut up, Craig, we're going to do it anyway. You can say, okay, Craig, sorry I ever asked, or you can say, Craig, what do you think we should do with Jackson? And he'll come through and say, you know, Jackson should do this. Stick to the right side of the pitch when dribbling. It suits athletic players like him. I'm going to ignore that one because at the end of the day, we're using him as a striker and he's given us some traits that might be more suited to a winger. I don't want him running down the right. I want him running down the centre. So I'm going to say goodbye to Craig and we're going to talk to someone else for this example. So we know that dribbling around the goalkeeper doesn't work. What I'm trying to show you here is that you should be going forward and trying to add traits to your players, particularly your strikers. And like I say, the round the goalkeeper one is really useful for a player with good dribbling and composure, apparently. Sorry, Craig, for not mentioning that. But the other ones I really like is the ones where they want to blast the ball into the back of the net. This is particularly handy if you have a player that maybe isn't the best finisher in the world. They're just going to go ahead, blast a shot and hope it goes in, as opposed to trying to place a shot when they haven't really got the ability to do that. So if I said blast the ball in the net for Jackson, he's probably too good of a finisher for this to be a good idea. And they said, yes, this suits a player with poor technique. So if you've got a player with poor technique as a striker, then blasting the ball into the back of the net could be a good trait to put on him. If a player has good composure, finishing and technique, then maybe you want to ask them to place the shots in the back back of the net, those traits can really take a player to another level. Like I say, the finishing style ones are particularly effective, rounding the goalkeeper, blasting it into net, or placing a shot. Find out which one might be better for your striker. You'll eventually get to learn which strikers suit which kind of trait, and then when they get in game, they're going to score you more goals. Like I say, you can do this with any position on the pitch. Enzo Fernandez, he already has tries killer balls often here, and I was going to say that would suit him. Players with good passing, vision, and technique might be able to do these killer balls that are really going to help your team out. And if he didn't have that trait, I'd get it added onto him. Maybe dictates tempo would be a good one as well. For Enzo Fernandez, these kind of things you can look at from your players, and these traits can be so important in game. It can elevate a player's performance massively, get you more goals, more assists, and overall better play. So the tip in general is, if you're not really looking at player traits, make sure you are, because they really can help your players out. And there we go, everyone. That is 5 tips to help you with Football Manager, hopefully help you get better at the game. If you did enjoy the video, smash the like button for us, subscribe for more, and I'll see you next time. Thank you, and goodbye.